Good evening and welcome once again to Plain Talk. My apologies for the slightly late start. It's a scheduling issue, as you might have noticed. But I thank you for your patience as we get into our program to discuss critical current issues. My guest tonight is Mr. Ramon Gaskin, a very popular person on this program. I'm often asked, when am I going to bring back Raymond again? So Raymond, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
I have a number of issues I want to raise with you.
Okay.
I want to start with this question of the border matter with Venezuela. And we've heard that the president and the government of Guyana is preparing to take this matter up with the ICJ. I want to discuss a number of issues with you this evening: constitutional reform, the continuing saga of the GCOM chair. Obviously, oil is a continuing issue. Constitutional reform. So we have a lot of stuff to deal with. But let's start with this issue
quickly.
of the border.
The question of this so-called dispute with Venezuela that's been dragging on for quite some time, as far as I can recall, since independence, is a matter really that bothers me a lot, because now we're told that the president of Guyana may wish to take this matter for what he calls judicial settlement. I'm not sure what that means, but they're talking about taking it for some judicial pronouncement, because this...
Which is to have the matter, after all these years, finally resolved.
There are a couple of problems with that. First of all, this matter has been resolved in 1999 by an award, an arbitral award that is called Final, Binding and Perfect. These awards cannot really be reopened. And I'm hoping that whatever he does here does not reopen this matter, and to really relitigate the territory of this country before any set of foreign strange judges, whether they're the ICJ or wherever they are. We cannot relitigate the territory of this country.
Is it because of the judges, or is it as a matter of principle?
As a matter of principle. This matter has been resolved since 1899. It's final and binding and perfect. That's what the award says.
I wonder, you talk about 1899. Take us to 1966.
Yes, in 1966 the matter was, it reared its head again, and there was a document there signed by the British and the Venezuela, and Burnham signed there too. Forbes Burnham, he put his name to that document. Although at that time,
we were a colony.
We were a colony, and the British government still had responsibility for foreign affairs, and Burnham should not really have been signing nothing there, but he signed it anyhow, and I think Burnham would have signed anything to get on with this business of independence, but he signed it.
Well, which is why he did it.
Well, I guess that's why he did it, and we have the problem now. So we cannot relitigate the territory of this country, and we need to know from the president precisely what is it he's planning to do. Precisely what is it he's planning to do.
In your view?
It bothered me so much that I went to the law. This is the big textbook by Harris on international law here, to see what the law says about this matter. And from what I can read here, these arbitral awards cannot be reopened. Even decisions of the ICJ cannot be revisited, or except under extreme circumstances. And all that is possible, from what I can see here in the law material here, is that we can go for what is called an advisory opinion on the matter. Although we shouldn't be going, because we don't have no claim. It is not we're claiming something against Venezuela. It's Venezuela is making the claim. So if anybody is to go, they should be going. But the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, does have a facility where they can give an opinion on a matter. And I see no harm if the Secretary General of the United Nations were to put the matter put the question, a question,
Because the matter is with the
with the
Secretary General at this
Secretary
stage.
and
Yes.
they have the authority to put a matter to the court to get an advisory opinion. Incidentally, Venezuela, you know, is a member of the court. We have to be very careful when we go there.
Well, of course, they would recuse themselves on the issue, but they do have connections. In the
They have that, and all of them is friends and colleagues and comrades and so on. So we have to be very
Well,
careful.
Raymond,
But I'm not sure if that's what the president has in mind. I haven't heard him say that, and he's not been very clear. And matters of this nature ought to be debated properly in the National Assembly, so long as it involves the territory of Guyana.
But we've got part of our legal team includes Sir Sridhar Ramphal. He has this.
He's been around for
Outsized
some time. Yeah,
reputation.
yes, he's been around for a long time.
Now,
He was at the UN last week, I think, with President Granger.
he's not raising this issue that you're talking about.
I don't
he-
know what he's doing. I don't know what Ramphal is doing, but the president has the obligation to tell this nation what is it he wants to be done. What he wants and what Ramphal wants to be done. What the president has in mind. Because when I consult the law book, the only thing that we can go for is an advisory opinion, and we need to know from the president if that's what he has in mind. There are quite a few lawyers in the cabinet there, Basil Williams, Harmon, Nagamoto, Kamraj, and all of them. And I would suggest that they all go and look up the law books too, the international law book, and advise the president, who's not a lawyer, of what could be done in this situation. They should all go and read up Harmon and all of them. Trotman is a lawyer too, I understand, and Nagamoto. And I'm very nervous with this whole
So
thing. Lincoln Lewis wrote about it last Sunday. He said he was nervous about it. Well, I'm nervous too. And we need to know clearly what they plan to do.
And your view is that it should be debated in the National Assembly.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Any matter that involves territory with Venezuela and this claim, which is settled since 1899, ought to be debated in the National Assembly, and the president should get a mandate from the National Assembly to proceed wherever he wants to proceed. We need to know.
It's interesting you raise that, because our Constitution doesn't seem to allow the president to do it or not to do it.
Well, the Constitution...
It talks about preserving the territory of the country.
Yeah, the territory of the Guyana is entrenched in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And the president is sworn to uphold the Constitution, which includes that part of it. And therefore, the president has no authority to place the territory of Guyana at risk before no set of judges, no place. Not at all. No place. We cannot do it. The territory of Guyana has been settled since 1899. As simple as that.
And just as a matter of detail, it's some dead man.
Yes, some dead man.
Letter.
Yes, long after he died. This was a troublemaker. At the time he was involved in the proceedings, he had not rendered
A minority opinion.
And later, after he died, and I don't know if that is sufficient grounds to reopen anything. I know in the Article 61 of the International Court of Justice requires a lot of evidence before you could even revisit a decision of the court, of the court itself. So to revisit something that took place 117 years ago, I don't think it's possible. I don't see it in the law, but I know there is provision in the court there under Article 65 to go for an advisory opinion. And that we could do.
And of course, there's a principle of international law that international agreements and treaties must be observed.
That's correct. The pacta sunt servanda rule. But I'm very worried about President Granger, who is not a lawyer, and he should be very careful what he's doing. And he should tell this nation what is it he plans to do.
Well, that takes us in, because as we said, it's this whole question of the territory of Guyana and its preservation.
That's correct. It's not negotiable.
There's this discussion, you mentioned Mr. Lincoln Lewis, the General Secretary.
He wrote about it last Sunday, I think.
But I'm raising the matter in a different context. There's this ongoing discussion between Mr. Lewis and maybe the people from RISE
over Constitution.
Over the Constitution, and whether we should be engaging in constitutional reform or we should be just focusing on implementing the Constitution.
No.
Where do you stand on this?
Constitutional reform and law reform is a requirement of the Constitution and of the laws of Guyana. It's a requirement. Law reform is a requirement. It's not an optional thing. The whole question of reviewing law all the time for the purposes of reforming of the law,
Because
it's
social conditions change.
Yeah. And it's a requirement of the laws of Guyana that we should have this done. But we need this constitution here needs serious reform, serious rewrite. A lot of it not
So
just
you don't agree with, you take the view that you need reform.
serious reform, and much of it has to be like rewritten altogether. And one of the big problems in this country has to do with what you call compliance or non-compliance. And in this, what we have in this country here in developing now, if the president doesn't want to do something which he's sworn to do, he doesn't do it. Or he does it in his own sweet time, whenever he wants to do it, whenever he's ready. The Constitution doesn't say that. The president is sworn to uphold the Constitution. And what we have here for the first time in Guyana, we don't have a public service commission in place. We don't have a police service commission in place. We don't have the chairman of GCOM in place. We don't have the local government commission in place. We don't have the ethic relations commission in place. And this is all ridiculous. This
And
is
the
a
integrity commission as well.
This is a violation of the Constitution. The president of Guyana is violating the Constitution by not doing these things. We have never had a situation like where all of these constitutional positions remain unfilled. And I think
But that's a compliance issue now.
It's
You've
a-
gone from reform to compliance.
But because it needs such serious rewrite, and we can't do anything about it at the present time. That's why you need serious reform, and to put in the reformed constitution serious sanctions and penalties for violating the Constitution. We don't have that now. We have the impeachment in the Constitution, which is not a practicable thing to get done. We need
Because it's the people who
people on this list got to
yeah.
impeach him. You're not going to get that so
Yes.
easily. So Constitution
and that's true.
Guyana
That's true. Whichever party is
is in power. So we need serious rewrite of the Constitution, a serious reform of the Constitution, to put in sanctions. We need to look at this whole model about this executive presidency, this all-powerful president. Do you need a model like that? I think that model is not an appropriate model for Guyana, this all-powerful man who is part of the National Assembly. He appoints the judges, he appoints all the ministers, he appoints the commissioner of police, he appoints the people in the security services, and so on.
I
We
think
have
that's
to
a
move
slight
away.
overstatement. The leader of the opposition does have a role in some of those appointments. He, for example, or the National
Which one?
Assembly, for example,
Which one?
the Judicial Service Commission, and I don't think you mentioned that one.
The Judicial Service Commission is functioning because you can't get the government and the opposition to agree on the thing. You have this situation where they're acting all the time for some
The
time now.
Chancellor and the Chief Justice.
And the Chief Justice, they're acting all the time. The Constitution doesn't provide for that. So that's a big problem there. What do you do when you have this gridlock with these two leaders and so on? So this Constitution needs to be seriously reformed and rewritten in many cases, especially the section dealing with penalties and sanctions for non-compliance with the Constitution. We have to be able to fire all of them who are not doing what they're supposed to do, who are violating their oath of office. We need to look at this model. We need to look at a power sharing model where the regions are involved in sharing power in this country
Sharing revenues.
and
as
sharing
well.
revenues at the same time. We need to have some kind of devolution of power. If you don't have that, you'll have one party in Georgetown running things like how you have it now, and that doesn't
Like
work.
how you've always had it.
Like how you had it.
I think that point has to be made. It's not
Yeah.
this.
No,
this
we've had it all the
administration.
time. We need to have in a constitution, we need the constitution to limit the size of government. I know in the United States Constitution, you just can't create a ministry like that. Hey, you can create them and close them down and reopen them, and you wake up in the morning, hey, this is a new minister, and this new ministry, this is all nonsense. You need to have it constitutionally entrenched. How many ministries you should have in this place? We can't have it how it's going now. You got 20-something ministers, all ridiculous. We have to make sure that the Parliament. We have to give the power. We have to put the power into the Parliament and make the Parliament more paramount than what it is now. It has been reduced. The Parliament has been reduced.
Hardly ever meets.
It hardly ever meets. It hardly ever meets. And we need a greater set of public hearings for ministers and everybody, the way they have it in the States. We need more transparency, more openness in the we don't have that in the present constitution.
Do these commissions of inquiry give you that kind of transparency and openness?
Well, I haven't gone to any of them yet. You talk about slow?
I'm not speaking of any particular one. I'm speaking generally.
Well, the commissions of inquiry we've had recently, you know,
and those are presidential.
Yeah, the Commission of Inquiry Act says the president can hold one whenever he finds it desirable so to do. There's something wrong with that too. There's something wrong with that, where the president could have all these things, creates his own people, sets up his own people, gives them these assignments to do, and then they write reports, and we don't even know what they're doing. We don't know.
There was a spurt of revelations or disclosures or leaks in terms of the Paul Slow Commission of Inquiry into the allegation, this outrageous allegation of an assassination against President Granger. That seemed to have subsided.
From just reading the press and looking on, I get the distinct impression that the Paul Slow Commission of Inquiry was created as a vehicle to take down senior members of the leadership of the Guyana
But that's not
Police
possible.
Force.
That can't happen. It doesn't work that way.
This is my opinion that I formed. Why
No. I know. But the point I'm making is that you can do that, but you can't take down people like that. There is a machinery for dealing with any of those. For example, the office of the commissioner. That's a constitutional position. It requires a recommendation from the Prime Minister, and then separate hearings.
I know all that. But you have right now, you don't even have a police service commission in place. The police service commission, which is charged in the Constitution with some disciplinary powers and so on, you don't have it. So when you don't have a commission in place, the minister becomes the commission. So you don't have that either. So, and then you have the Lands Commission. We told the Lands Commission at the beginning was to deal with ancestral lands and I think indigenous lands and so on.
Yes.
Now we're told they started the work. After they started the work, now they don't deal with indigenous lands any longer. They're just dealing with ancestral lands. I'm wondering if the inclusion of the indigenous lands at the beginning wasn't a kind of trick, if we weren't tricked into believing that this Lands Commission was really to deal with all of these issues, when in fact the plan was to have it deal with these ancestral issues as part of this reparatory justice that the certain organizations are looking for. I have my suspicions about that now, because no sooner had the thing started its work that we're told that we're not going to deal with indigenous, we're just going to deal with ancestral. I'm wondering if it was deliberately set up like that. I'm not sure.
Well, quite what is ancestral land?
Ancestral lands in Guyana, in our context, I think what they talk about, what they mean is those lands that were acquired by the freed people in 1838.
The free slaves, yes.
Well, they were not slaves any longer. They were freed in 1838.
Right. Sorry, yes.
And many of them got together and purchased a lot of villages, we're told. And over the years, from 1838 to, I don't know, the present time, there have been problems with that land all through the colonial times, right up to independence. They lost some of the land, they got some of it, they kept some of it, they sold some, they leased some, they lost some. And that's what they're looking into. And they want, I guess, they want to recover the lands that they bought. However, from 1838 to 1966, there's even Barnum didn't look at it. 30 years later, a lot of things may have happened during the colonial times with those lands, and even Barnum didn't want to touch it at independence, but now they want to look at it. But we don't know. I don't know who has the history from 1838 to 2017, what happened with those lines. I see recently we've had a case where one man brought a transport, he said from his great-great-grandfather, And then yesterday, a whole set of other people,
50%,
they got transport too. So everybody got transport for this place. I hope they can sort it out. Although they,
But that's not the forum for sorting it
but
out.
that's not the forum. They should take that matter to a judge, for the judge to look and see
pronounce
who
it,
to
yes.
pronounce on it. But you're going to get all those kinds of things.
In fairness to the Lands Commission, it did make itself quite clear, I think, two commissioners, because of course they're still into hearings. There are no findings at this stage, no conclusions. But they did say that this is not an attempt or a vehicle for depriving any person of land that they own.
Well, I think as a general rule, it ought to be said by everybody that whatever work the commission is doing, it should not be part of their work to take away lands from one group to give to another group. So they have to look into that. I'm not sure they can get this thing right. I think the chairman is a pastor, I think. Those matters of that nature need some real serious people. Serious legal people.
Land law is one of the most complex
They
issues.
need some serious legal people.
What makes land law in our country so difficult as well is because we have
The
Roman Dutch
and all of that.
for the transport, and then you have the registration
Yes.
system. So it's become a little bit complicated.
Well, Fenton Ramsay, who wrote the book, I think, on the land law, he should be advising some of them.
He ought to have been.
Yes, and advise it to all of them.
Fenton's book is probably, Dr. Ramsay's book is probably
the definitive work
statement
on the matter
of land law in Guyana.
Yes.
There have been other studies, but other books, but nothing
like
of the
Ramsay's
scale
work,
and
Fenton Ramsay's work.
The scholarship.
So
of
I'm not
Ramsay's
sure
book.
what will come out of that. But I have a sneaking suspicion that it has to do somehow with reparatory justice
And
things of
you
that
also
nature.
read that there's some very junior lawyer is the counsel for the Lands Commission. Now that's not how it should be at all.
No, the whole question of land in this country is a serious matter, and they should have serious people. I've always held the view that this country of told 83,000 square miles with 750,000 people, we should have enough land for everybody that wants land. The Constitution is clear on the question of land. I think in Article 8, the Constitution
To the
says
tiller.
land is for social use and must go to the tiller. The word the Constitution uses is must. It's for social use and it must go there. It must go to the tiller. That is a strong word, not shall. It must go to the tiller. In other words, what the Constitution has in mind, when I read it, is that the land should be used socially and productively. It must go to the tiller. If you don't want to go to till the land, you really shouldn't fight up too much for land. Land must go to the tiller. That is the word in the Constitution, Article 8. And we have to be guided by that. And I hope the Commission... It's 8. And I think that the Commission should keep that in mind. Whatever they decide, you just can't come and say, well, I need so much 1,000 acres because, my great-great-grandfather in 1838, whatever. Land must go to the tiller. I think that is clear English, clear language.
But just minor correction. Isn't 8 the supremacy clause?
Oh, yeah, no, 8 and 9. I think it's 9. 8 is...
The supremacy clause.
The thief is not consonant. 8
Yes.
is not consonant. I think 9 is the land.
Yeah.
And land must go to the tiller. Must. The word must is inserted there.
If-
So all them who fighting up for land, I hope they know that when they get it, they must till it. And if they don't want to till it, they shouldn't go there for it. Simple.
Let's deal with
In any event, in our country, you don't have to go to the committee. People want land, you could go to land and survey and get land.
Yes.
Especially if you want it for productive purposes. It's not difficult to get land here.
No, it's not. But except that a lot of people are speculating
Yes,
on
yes.
the land.
And that is why the Constitution says land is for the tiller, not to speculate.
People get these 25 years lease.
Yeah.
And they do absolutely nothing
with it.
with them.
Yeah.
Yes. Let's deal with an economic issue now. The proposed Demerara Harbour Bridge.
Oh, tell me about that
you know,
one.
There's a report that hasn't been really made public. It seems to be a kind of a preliminary type of report, although it's called final.
A secret report.
Now, what do you know about this Demerara Harbour Bridge, other than it's probably going to cost something like
200, no, but over 200 million US. Over 200 million US, because it's 170 million US plus roads and all kinds of things. What I know about that figure, from the little I know about numbers and accounting and so on, is that to cross that bridge, if you were to build a bridge for 200 million US or 170 million US, it would probably cost you over 15 to 20 times what it costs you now to cross the bridge. Clearly, because the Berbice Bridge at about 50 million US started off at 10 times the Demerara Bridge at 2000 for a 50 million US investment. So if you go 5 times that, you could imagine...
You want the 250 already?
Yeah, 250. It will be 250 by the time they finish with it. When you go to 200 million 4 times, it'll cost you about 78,000 to cross the bridge, but there's more traffic there. There's a lot of more traffic here. But it still would be extremely expensive to cross that bridge. And it will require subsidies.
But
in the same way...
The question is, before we get there, the question is...
Do you need it?
Are you satisfied that we have done our homework on this bridge? And
No.
again, we are told, oh, we want it for 2020.
No. First of all, I don't think you need to spend that kind of money to deal with the problem we have with the existing bridge. The problem with the existing bridge has to do with inadequacy of lanes to handle traffic. What you need, in my opinion, as a layman, a non-engineering type, is just to put a floating bridge alongside the present bridge to deal with the traffic.
So,
That's all.
and you get the benefit of all the infrastructure that is currently in place.
Yes.
You don't need new access roads
and
either
all that. You
on the
just
left bank or the right bank.
You just put a next floating bridge next to the present bridge, and you get 3-4 more lanes of traffic. That's all you need. You need 40 million US. You don't need 200 million. You need 40 million US. That's all you need.
Why do you
But
think?
now that you talk about bridges, that Berbice Bridge is becoming a big problem. I don't know if you know that, because they didn't pay the NIS. And the NIS CEO was complaining today about she had to dip into reserves.
Well, that's so, but the chairman of NIS is also chairman of Berbice Bridge.
Yes. Well, he's doing a very poor job up there to ensure that this bridge, where he's the chairman, pays the other place where he's chairman over there the money that the bridge owes the NIS, 460 million, I think.
Yeah.
The Berbice Bridge owes the NIS. And this chairman, you think he's a medical doctor, right?
He is, that's correct.
He has not been able to make sure that the bridge company pay the NIS the money that they owe, 460 million. And the NIS now, in that bridge, in the Berbice Bridge, they're the biggest investment at $2.9 billion in that Berbice Bridge, and they're not getting the return on the investment that they need to get. And Dr. Prasad should pull up his socks and make sure that the NIS get the money that they're supposed to get, because the other guys are getting the money, the New Building Society and whoever, hand in hand, and all of them. And he must make sure that the NIS get the money that's due to them.
But hold on. You're saying that the other places get preferential treatment, even in respect of the repayment of
I don't want to
payment
call
of
it,
interest?
I don't call it.
No, because that's a serious statement you're making.
But I make the statement based on the audited financial statement that I read.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use the word preferential. It says that the money is owed to the NIS, and it doesn't say that the money is owed to the rest of them. So I'm prepared to just say what the audit report says.
But
That they did not pay the NIS. The money is due to the NIS when it became due. As incidentally, that Berbice Bridge is bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
It's bankrupt.
Well, if you can't pay it,
It's bankrupt and it's insolvent. It's bankrupt. The deficit on the equity is over $2-3 billion now.
They wrote off $1 billion.
They wrote off $1 billion recently,
In
what they call
2016.
impairment of asset. The whole capital structure has been destroyed. There's no capital there. And on the working capital, there's a serious deficit on the working capital, and they really can't pay their bills. What is going to happen, I think, is that the Berbice Bridge is going to come to the government again to raise the tolls, the government will have to either raise the tolls or give them more subsidy. I think they gave them $160 million last year.
That's right.
And
yes.
the Barbados Bridge needs a serious revamping, re-engineering. They're paying people there 10, 11, and 12% interest. They're paying 18% on the overdraft. And in my opinion, just reading all this nonsense, it appears to me that a lot of foolishness takes place up there. And they need some serious
Well, the
people
NIS,
up there.
the NIS has at least 2 directors on that board, does it?
Including the chairman, neither of whom seems to be looking out for the interests of the NIS. And the money that the NIS puts inside there, $2.9 billion. We're talking billions here.
But let's get back to because my concern is about the Demerara Harbour.
Well,
Bridge.
the Harbour Bridge. And if they do it on that same formula, the public-private nonsense, we're going to have the same problems we have up there. The bridge has to be part of the national infrastructure. You put private people inside there, you get into more trouble that you can handle. The new Demerara Bridge, you don't need it. You don't need to spend 200 million US. You need to spend 40 million US and put another floating bridge alongside the present floating bridge. That's all you need. I'll tell Mr. Adams that when I see him, Ralston.
But well, it's not Mr. Adams. It's the
minister.
It's the minister.
Mr. Patterson.
Minister Patterson.
He's pushing that, yeah.
He's pushing this.
Oh, yeah, he's pushing that. Well, I'll tell him when I see him.
Well, you're lucky you get to see them.
I can get to see him if I want
Well
to see
done,
him.
well done.
Uh-huh.
But these studies are not available.
No, they wouldn't make them available. They won't make them available
But
because
now,
when they make them available, you can get to dissect it and analyze it.
But Raymond, you were just now talking about the Constitution.
Yeah.
Surely, given Article 13 and Article 149C consultation, and given the National Assembly, they should take this thing to the National Assembly, shouldn't they?
That's correct. You're talking big money, 200 million US. A lot of it is loan capital. Loan capital, you borrow, you got to pay it back. You got paid back with interest, and at the end of the day, the consumer, he got to pay it. He got paid. He got to pay it. And we have that problem.
You know, one has to.
I noticed though that the government has made a decision on a miler.
Let's stick to this. I know your favorite word.
Yeah, because I think that's a good decision. That's one of the decisions I think I can support to get rid of this Somali thing. But coming back to this Demerara Bridge, it's bad news. Bad news. Bad news.
Do you think we can make the same kind of mistake? This government can make the same kind of mistake that the PPP administration, the Jagdeo administration, made in relation to Skillen? Because you're talking about that kind of ballpark numbers.
They probably will. They probably will. The only difference between this gang here and the Jagdeo gang, when
this administration,
this set here, when they borrowed 200 million US, they're seen down the road they could get big ass money to pay it back. At the time when Jagdeo made that poor and bad and wrong strategic decision to invest in Skeldon, he had a plan to do 450,000 tons.
That's correct.
And he thought the unit price would come down, Guyana would be competitive and all, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But these here believe you can borrow 200 million or how much 100 million and the oil money will pay for it come 2020. That's what.
But surely the oil money is to help the social infrastructure and other more pressing issues, isn't it?
What these here planning to do with the oil money?
Yes.
Besides the arches and all of that, what is planning
No,
to do?
no,
I don't know what they're planning to do. I don't know what they're doing.
Well, no, but this Demerara Harbour Bridge is one of the...
They want to do with the oil money? You don't need it. You don't need to spend 200 million on that. You don't need to do that.
I want to take you now to this continuing saga of the GCOM chair.
Oh, tell me about that. I think...
Now, it's been several months.
Yes, and several
since
lists.
we have not had
a GCOM chair.
Chairman.
And we had a ruling or I think a decision of the court. And I think the president has to carry the blame for the present state of affairs when it comes to the GCOM chairman. There's absolutely no reason at all why by now we cannot get a decision on this matter to get a chairman. And the president is behaving as if he can make the decision whenever he likes, or if he doesn't want to do it, it doesn't matter.
But this has implications for elections, isn't it?
Well, by election time, they probably
No, no,
get
no.
around by
But
election time.
hold on. No. You just don't wait. Things happen all
To
the
be
time.
put in place.
Otherwise, you should just have a JCOM when elections come around.
Well, maybe, but in terms of this GCOM chairman, it appears to me that the president is in clear violation of his oath of office and to uphold the Constitution. It's a constitutional requirement, among others, and now we cannot accept it. And we have to tell him straight. He has to get on with the business of appointing a chairman of GCOM. And similarly, to put in place the Police Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, the Local Government Commission, the Integrity Commission, and all of them, what the Constitution requires. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. No more fooling around with these things. That's my position. There's absolutely no reason at all why this thing can't be done, why it hasn't been done all this time. And a lot of other nonsense gets done in the meanwhile. That is not important.
Like?
Well, lots of things. Lots of other things.
We have had a continuing problem with crime.
Oh, yes.
Vice President Kemraj Ramjatan, then leader of the AFC, presided over two of the most damaging outbreaks at the Camp Street prison. We keep getting almost daily. You read yesterday an 87-year-old woman and a 75-year-old woman.
I read about it. I was so depressed at the viciousness of the crime. It's an unspeakable crime. It's an unspeakable crime.
Well, we had a 13-year-old boy
we had
in
a thing with
Berbice.
a 13-year-old boy. We had a case last week where some people came in from outside for some religious work and they were invaded and somebody was killed and so on. And I was reflecting upon it. It's getting worse. Not only the quantum of crime,
The viciousness
of it we're seeing. 18-year-old, 19-year-old charged for murder and so on. And a lot of it is rooted. I would think if you go back to it, I'm not big into psychology and all of that, but the youth here would turn into crime.
It's part of the social problem.
Yeah.
Unemployment, broken homes,
yes.
not sufficient time
Yes,
in school,
that's correct.
no
Drop
social network, nothing.
Drop out from the school system and all of that, and they turn to crime. And we're seeing an increase in the viciousness of it, on top of the quantum of crime, the sheer viciousness of it. Really is.
Do you think, let's call a spade a spade, do you think Kemraj Ramjatan is capable of doing the job as Minister of Public Security?
No, I think Ramjatan should have offered his resignation to the president long ago. After the first... he should have gone himself. He should have gone, or the president should have removed him long ago. Because he is proven to be a failure in that department. But we have the police force. You have the police force. You have an assistant commissioner. It's the acting commissioner. You have all sorts of problems in that force. The assistant commissioner is the acting commissioner. I don't know if you have a deputy commissioner.
You remember we had a fire. About 18 people died.
Uh-huh.
A report came out, a commission of inquiry, and not a single thing has been done.
They blame the people there for the fire, and they said the fire, and nothing. I think that was it.
No, but
nothing has been done about anything.
The report made several recommendations.
Yes. But before that, you had recommendations of the Discipline Services Commission
2004, that's
on
correct.
the police and on the fire service. Those haven't been done either. Although the police payroll now in 2017 is over 7 billion a year.
Yes.
Up from 4.2 billion in 2014. The police payroll has shown a 60% increase, 64% I think, in the last 2 to 3 years. We're over $7 billion on the police force.
Do you
alone.
think we're getting value for money?
No. The leadership there is quite poor. The training is poor. The quality of the recruit needs to be improved. The pay needs to be improved, and everything needs to be improved.
Well, you just said the total cost has gone up 64%.
Yeah. You're bringing in a lot of bodies all the time and paying them all the time, but I don't know what you're getting.
Now, you mentioned, Mr. Gaskin, the situation where someone came from abroad to do religious observance of for some relative, and that person was killed.
Yes.
Now, here we have the president asking people to come back and bring your brains.
Oh well, when the people in the diaspora, when they read that, and they read a lot about Guyana, they know what's going on here. They're not.
Your newspapers are on the internet.
They're not going to come here so easily. It's not easy to uproot somebody over there and bring them here, you know. People with their children in school or in college and high school, and their little mortgage and their little work what they got to sell. It's not easy to uproot them. What this government has been successful in doing is to bring back a lot of retiree, ex-military, who probably ain't working in New York, bring them back here and put them into the civilian administration. Those they can get, but other than that, they haven't been able to attract regular guys.
So what do you think of the president's call? Look, we don't want your barrels, we want your brains.
The president says he wants brains. They got a lot of brains in this place, right in the place that he don't want. That he's removed from the public service. He's removed a lot of brains from the public service for no good reason. And then he talks that he needs brains. So I think it's I would describe that as hypocrisy. The word for that is hypocrisy.
No, but
he's removed a lot of brains from the public service.
No, but we do have areas
where
we need
brains.
Brains, yes.
Yeah, in Guyana, we need a lot of brains in a lot of areas.
I mean, one sometimes, you know, we have a human resource company, Ramon Gaskin, no advertising, but it's called Akedo, and people looking sometimes for gardener. I remember a couple of years ago, a Minister of Labour was asking me, "You can't find me a gardener."
Very good. Yeah.
So, is it that we're not training our people well? We're just producing numbers for meaning nothing.
One of the problems we have in this country is that we produce a lot of people, and we spend a lot of money training and producing a lot of people to serve foreign jurisdictions. A lot of our nurses that we pay to train have gone. A lot of our teachers we pay to train are gone to serve other jurisdictions. And a lot of Mickey Mouse Islands in the Caribbean can pay a nurse and a teacher better than we can pay here. But we train them for free. We train them and we send them to the islands and to Canada and America and all of that. And we don't want to pay our people properly, the same people that we spend a lot of money to train, especially nurses and teachers. It's a terrible indictment here. But this government and the previous administration, both of them held to the same position, not to pay your people properly, train them, and they're gone. And that goes for the University of Guyana graduates too. Over 60-70% of them gone. That's what
I think it's much higher than that.
But it's costing the taxpayers here. It's costing us to train all these people for foreign jurisdictions. We have to look at that. I don't think we can afford it, really, to train all these people and send them all over the place. And then we're short of staff. We don't have teachers and we don't have nurses.
That is worthy of a separate discussion.
Yes.
What do you do with all this money we're spending on education and
it's
training?
A tremendous cost, yes, tremendous cost.
Yes.
And we don't get the benefit of it, and from the University of Ghana on the tertiary level too. On the tertiary level. And a lot of money we spend at Queen's College to train all these bright youngsters. And if you go back to Queen's College, the graduates, so that you go back 10 years ago, a lot of them not here. Mm-hmm. It costs a lot of money.
In that, when the president made that call to a meeting of the Guyanese community in New York, where he was attending the United Nations General Assembly, he also appeared to have used rather disparaging remarks about some of the very foundations of our economy. You would have seen some exchanges.
Yeah.
Do you think the president was being fair and informed in such comments?
I don't know what he would say now in defense of his language, whether he misspoke or he chose the wrong words. But I gather from what he's saying is that, and it all has to do with all this preoccupation with this oil coming in 2020. So therefore all these present pillars of the economy, they're not really so important, rice and sugar and all those things, because we have this oil coming. These are all false notions he has. It is not true that the present pillars of the economy that have sustained our people and our country for hundreds of years are curses. And he should really review his position. They're not curses. What might well be the curse is the curse that's coming in 2020. We'll have to look into that. But sugar and rice and bauxite, gold and diamond and forestry, they're not curses. Those sectors are the economy of Guyana. And we need to do a lot of work, pay attention to them, and lift them. You know, sugar is in decline. I see in the big papers now, today the big advertisement to get rid of sugar. Rice is struggling. I don't know, gold is still producing. A lot of it is being smuggled. I don't know what's happening to
Do you
bauxite.
think too much focus is being placed on oil now?
Oh yes, oh yes. The whole machinery of government, I think, is preoccupied and obsessed with this oil coming. Yeah, with this so-called oil coming. I think so. And we don't even know. We haven't been told up to now when this so-called oil is coming. What we'll get out of it? We still can't know. We need to know. What are we going to get? We can only know that when the deal is published. And this government and the previous government did not want to publish the deal, but we need to have this deal published. I see Kaichor even now is calling for it to be published. I hope it's published soon. We need to know that.
Well,
and Trotman has no real reason, nor the president, nor anybody, to keep this thing secret.
No.
This is not secret business. This is public business.
We've all observed Mr. Trotman in this position as the Minister of Natural Resources. He gave a false account of what the confidentiality arrangement.
Yes.
Its history.
And a lack of comprehension of even of the Section 4 of the Act.
He doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand its history. He doesn't understand.
He doesn't understand nothing about
now,
it.
Look, one congratulates him and his new wife on their
Yeah, he
marriage.
looks sharp in that picture, I think.
No, but
I think so.
this business of, I mean, it's unfortunate we got to deal with matters like this. This woman was working at his ministry. She resigned. Despite resigning, he takes her at Exxon Mobil's expense. And your namesake, Dominic Gaskin, said it's going to come out to cost oil. Takes her to Texas.
Doesn't know what the hell he's talking about either. Go ahead.
Takes her to Texas as part of this government team. Is that proper?
Entirely improper. Entirely improper. Look at America. The one last he worked this week, the minister, the Secretary Price, because he used some private plane to gallivant with. He get fired this week in America, which is a big, powerful, rich country. And here they spend money like if it's their money, when they don't have any regard for public money.
But we are we've said he could not understand a simple legislative.
No, and he doesn't
change.
understand that
He can't interpret.
you can't take your fiancé on these kind of public business just like that. And he should, and it's improper. It's improper and it's unfortunate. And Trotman should know better. I'm sure he knows better, but he gets carried away. I think he probably gets carried away.
Well, no. Forget that. That's a personal thing. I'm sure we all get carried away in our own different ways. This here is a matter of a judgment of a key minister.
Poor judgment call. Poor judgment call. That's what I would say.
What, in your view, would be ExxonMobil's view of what Mr. Trotman has done? Because it came out, they were
ExxonMobil, because they have all this vast experience all over the world with all these guys, they would say that they're not at all disappointed. They've seen it before. ExxonMobil saw it before. That these ministers bring the people to all these.
But surely they can't now see this team, as people who are serious negotiators and people who stand up for Guyana rather than stand up for their own
Exxon has already made a judgment on these people. They've already made a judgment call on these people that they're not serious people.
One of the persons who was on that that trip, Mr. Dominic Gaskin,
Yes.
has said that the AFC people are unbribable. What? And he was on that trip.
Yeah.
Is his judgment seriously flawed as well?
Yes, I would say that. Yes, when he said that. I think when Dominic Gaskin said he doesn't know what he's talking about. I would say he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. It's as simple as that. And ExxonMobil, which has a lot of experience all over the world, dealing with all kinds of countries, rich and poor and third world and first world, they have seen it all before. And they know what they're dealing with. And they know exactly how to deal with them. They've seen them before. It's not seeing these people for the first time.
What are the risks to us as a country? Forget what Mr. Trotman or Mr. Gaskin.
The risk to this country is that once you have leadership that is of poor quality, poor judgment, incompetent in many cases, ignorant, you won't get much out of them.
What is the cost to this country?
Because we won't get nothing out of these deals, because these are the people who we put there to negotiate these deals. And we've gone through this before. We've gone through this before with the present government. This is not the first time this is happening to Guyana, that we put people to negotiate the deals and we get nothing out of it. We've had it before with Omai, with Vaitarna, with Baishan Lin. We get nothing from Rusal. We get nothing from Bosai. We've gone through it before and we keep going through it all the time still with these people here. We've gone through it with Sam Hines and all of them, and we keep going through it with them. Janet gave away the 600 blocks to Exxon, and these here will do the same.
Well, they have done the same.
They have done it. Yes.
Because Trotman signed a completely new agreement
because we have poor quality leadership. Poor quality leadership we have here. What passes for leadership in this country is poor quality. That would be my assessment of them. And the scriptures teach us, by their deeds you shall know them, and that's how I judge them, by their deeds. Simple. The scripture says that.
And you are very familiar with the scripture.
That part of it, yes. And I believe in that. I subscribe to that. By their deeds you shall know them. And that's how I judge all these people, by their deeds. The scriptures teach you that.
Your favorite topic? Sugar.
Well, today, you see the paper, it's a big advertisement to advertise to this for all who want to come and help them sell Skeldon and Rosal and more. Big. $100-something million approved by the National Assembly for this special purpose unit there at Nissel to get rid of the sugar industry and destroy it. That's what you have there. But since the ERP started and privatization started with Desmond Hoyt in '88, they couldn't privatize sugar and get rid of it. Desmond didn't do it. Hoyt didn't want to do it. I don't know if he could have done it. Jagan resisted it all the time. Even Jagdeo resisted it all the time. And we come now. It's being done.
Now,
it's being done.
What is interesting, do you see this? Because it's obviously being removed from the Clive Thomas, Errol Hanneman controlled Kaisuku to Nissel, which has its own history. What's your view of transferring all of this to Nissel?
Well, Nissel,
does it provide that transparency and competence that you would expect?
Right now, Nissel ain't got no competence or no capacity to do nothing. That's why they're employing for staff to do this particular assignment, to carry this particular assignment.
But you have to admit that's a very specialized issue. You can't do that on your general workforce, which is slimmed down quite considerably anyway. They'll
need people if they want to sell off the sugar industry. They'll need people who can do it. But I think they just want to get rid of it. they just want to be rid of it.
No,
They want to be rid of it.
my question was whether NISIL is the best place, and whether the Gaisuko itself ought not to be
I don't know
doing
how
this.
much they're going to be involved, guys. But the privatization unit has always been inside the NISIL bowels there in Kingston since it was set up years ago with Brassington and all of them and Dr. Boodoo and all of them. So NISIL is the place that does it. I think the Dr. Odell here is the chairman of
That's
the NISIL.
correct, yes.
So they have people there. I don't know what will come out of it. But this government is embarked on a program and a campaign to get rid of the industry. And to
No, that's not true. They have said they're keeping a number of their estates.
That's what they've said.
Yes.
And you believe that, of course.
Well-
You believe them. I don't believe a word from them.
So you think the idea is to get rid of the entire...
Oh yeah, they'll get rid of it. They have no problem getting rid of the
think-
old sugar industry. They have no problem
But
getting rid
think
of it.
of the social and economic cost.
Uh-huh.
Think of the political
Well,
consideration.
we read the white paper of the government that was read out in Parliament by the Minister of Agriculture. He said we'll get rid of the thing and give these workers some land and we'll tell you what to do with it. That's what the government said. The government already said that in the white paper. They've already stated their position. We'll close this thing and we'll give you a piece of land and we'll tell you what to do with it.
Just briefly, we've got a couple of minutes.
And by December, we're at the beginning of October, you have about 75, I recommend in 75 days, 11 weeks, this whole thing is game over. Game over, guys, you couldn't 11 weeks.
No,
Game over.
for
From now, from today.
For those estates that have been identified in the white paper.
And 10,000 people. Game over, 11 weeks, 10,000 people on the breadline. That's what I see.
Do
By
you
the
think-
middle of December, it's game over.
Do you think the Parvatan Commission of Inquiry, in which Clive Thomas played a very big part, Clive Thomas is the expert on sugar as a sugar economist.
We're told.
Do you think Gaisoko, Errol Hanneman, Clive Thomas have really done a good job?
No, they haven't. They haven't. But the problem at Gaisuko
Is sugar fixable? Is it unfair to question those people when they have such a difficult task?
the sugar, the demise of sugar and the collapse of the sugar company, after I looked at it and I read Parvatan and all of that, I've identified three main causes of the collapse of the sugar company in this country, the Gaisuko. One has to do essentially starting with the 36% cut in the price
Yes.
of sugar. The second has to do with this big investment of 200-something million US that
Skeldon,
Jagdeo did
yes,
at
yes.
Skeldon, which crushed the company, the conservatives debt. And the third has to do with the behavior of the union. The union that
So you're
200 strikes.
you're exonerating management completely.
No, comment to that.
No, you said there were three, and you named the three.
Three. And then the management there. The management,
four.
before Hanneman, even from 92, the management was poor from the beginning. But these are the three fundamental causes of the collapse of the company. Jagdeo's decision, the European Union and the 36%, and the GAU, 200 strikes per annum, 16 years, 3,200 strikes, contributed to the demise of this, and mismanagement and corruption. Gaisuko has been a very corrupt place, for a long time now. People don't talk a lot about it, but I can talk about it.
Well, unfortunately,
We
I'm
run out of time.
not trying to shut you down, Mr.
We'll continue the thing, but Gaisuko has been a very corrupt place, badly managed.
Tell me quickly, you have 30 seconds. What about this political initiative you'd raised?
Oh yes, this
30
new,
seconds.
This new party that I want to explore the formation about. I'm still going about it. We plan to hold a next meeting shortly to talk about our ideas and our manifesto, what we have in mind, and to see where there is sufficient support to get a new party going.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Ramon Gaskin, thank you very much for appearing on Play Talk. A very interesting discussion, interesting perspectives. Operators and viewers, thank you. Good night. See you next week when we will try to arrange a discussion on cancer. As we know, this is Cancer Awareness Month. So until then, good night.